welcome back to another edition of Big Bull Technology. This is video 6 and this is to glue up our pencil box. This is one of the final steps which is going to make your project look fantastic. We're going to be using our sash clamps. I've got my side pieces and my end blocks and our gluing template right here. We are going to go through and glue up some projects so you know exactly how to glue up. But just like that, let's get started. All right, the first thing you need is you need to have all your pieces ready. Now, all of these pieces need to be sanded to a really good standard, because once you glue them up to this, it's really hard to sand in all those areas there. It's much easier to sand them like this. So make sure you're using the 120 grit sandpaper and then the 240 grit, which makes it nice and smooth. And especially these areas in here as well, making sure they're all sanded nice before you glue them up. All right, here I am. I've got everything that I need to set up. I've got my gluing templates, I've got my projects, and I've also got my glue here. When you're working with the glue, you want everything to be ready so that you don't waste any time. I've got one here that is already glued up, and I've got my 3 projects over here that I want to glue up. Now, when you're doing this, you want to make sure you set your sash clamps up, so when you put your project on, those end blocks don't always fall off. Okay, so you need to adjust those just to make that a little bit easier for you. So when you put it in there, it will stay in position just like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my flat surfaces on my end blocks. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of glue here, and I'm just going to put that just on both sides there. And then I'm going to use my finger just to make sure that the glue is over all of that surface, just like that. And then, I don't want to use too much glue, I don't want it oozing everywhere. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the other end over here now. So now I've got my glue on my ends there, I'm going to just put those in. Now, our glue is called a friction glue. So the more I move that back and forth like this, the more that glue is going to get sticky. So I'm just going to move them back and forth a little bit, just so that that will stick together. Now, I need to have my small end block needs to be flush like this. My small end block needs to be flush. Now, depending on how big your side pieces were when you originally got them, there may be a gap, but may not. And that's where this gluing template comes in. I'm going to put my gluing template in the middle there like that, and I'm going to push my large end block up against it there. So I'm flush down here, gluing template, and then my big end block there on that side there, just so it's all nice and firm, and that is the right size. I can now put this one over onto my sash clamps. Now I'm going to do the same for this next one, which has the shorter sides. Now you can see the difference in my end blocks here, that it's still flush here, but this one has a little bit of a step over this side here. I'm going to place that into my clamps there, so I know that they are in the right position. Now I'm going to do the last one. Now, once you've got all your pieces in like this, I'm just going to use my gluing template just to make sure that my end blocks are still in the right position, and they aren't here. So I'm just going to move them a little bit so that my gluing template can be sitting in the right spot. I'm just going to go through and check those just to make sure that they were all the right size in here. Now we've checked all our sizing with our template, we can move our sash clamp so that we can get that into the next hole in there. Now I'm just going to unwind these a little bit down here, and I'm going to get them in so that I can now glue that up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm happy that all my end blocks are nice, they're not tilted or anything like that. That I am going to make sure they're all nice and even and that I'm happy with them. So each person needs to be checking their pencil box. Then I'm evenly going to just tighten the sash clamp just that little bit, and I'm just going to be watching it. I don't want to push too much. There doesn't need to be a massive amount of clamping force here, otherwise it's going to pop up. And I'm just going to squeeze them just that little bit, and there's going to be a little bit of glue come out on each surface, and I'm still just going to check again just to make sure that my end blocks aren't moving and everything is nice and firm, because once I leave this, that's it. It will glue, and that's the position that it will always stay in, so I'm always going to check that. Now the last thing I need to do is just check all the glue. I've got a bit of glue in here and in these spots in here. I want to get all that glue off. So I'm going to use my rule, and I'm just going to scrape off that glue, just like that. I want to get all of that glue off. Well, there we go. I've gone through and I have checked all our pieces to make sure they're good. I've checked all the ends to make sure I'm happy. I've got as much glue off as I can to make sure that there's no glue on there, because the oil won't stick to that and it'll end up all blotchy. I've checked with my gluing template to make sure they're all good. But just like that, this video's over. See you in class.